The next presentation will come from the clinical core. Colleen?
Yes, sir.
So the cores you've been hearing from have lots of high-tech things to offer you, and then they had high-tech slides, and we're a low-tech core, and I have no slides, so I'm just going to talk to you. My goal of my conversation with you right now is really just to let you know how we can help you and how you can access the clinical core. And I think even those of you who are 100% in the lab, there's things we can do to help you if you need access to samples. And then those of you doing clinical research, whether it's, no matter what the emphasis is, we can help you with that as well. So I'm Colleen Cunningham. I'm a pediatric infectious disease doc, and John Bartlett and I co-direct this core, and we're assisted by Stuart Karcz and Kathy Link, and I'll introduce you to them a little bit more in a minute. But we provide everything from mentoring, study consultation, grant review, regulatory support. We can even help you in enrolling patients into studies if it's a modest number. We can't enroll 500 patients, but if you need a small number of individuals enrolled into a study so you can get pilot data for your NIH grant, we can help you with that. We have experience in both US and domestic studies, and We've mentored and supported really large numbers of young investigators across Duke. In addition, we also work closely with Susanna Nagy in terms of supporting the Duke CFAR clinical and biospecimen repository, and then we also provide support for the Duke Community Advisory Board. So John Bartlett, although he really needs no introduction, he's professor of medicine, global health, and nursing, and he's associate director of research at the DGHI. He has extensive experience, and I think this is really important, in clinical care of HIV-infected individuals. So he has a really good understanding of what are the important issues for HIV-infected individuals, what's feasible to ask an infected patient to do as part of a study, and where you can get access to the patients that you need for your specific study. He also has extensive experience in other countries, particularly Tanzania. I'm a professor of pediatrics, global health, and pathology, and I'm vice chair for research in the Department of Pediatrics, and I have extensive experience in taking care of HIV-infected children and adolescents. So between John and I, we have the age spectrum covered, and we have domestic and international covered. My particular interest is prevention and treatment of infection in children, but I have a strong interest in active and passive immunization, and a lot of experience with multi-center clinical trials, so I can help address those kind of questions specifically. I've mentored trainees and faculty across multiple schools within Duke, as well as across different departments and different divisions, and including MDs and PhDs. Stuart Karcz. Stuart, can you just stand up so everybody can see who you are? So he is our study coordinator extraordinaire. He provides outreach to Duke investigators, and he'll facilitate access to patient and sample repositories. So if you are a laboratory investigator and you need plasma and cells from 10 HIV-infected adults, Stuart can help you identify where to get access to those patients, what's the regulatory documentation and regulatory work you need to do to get that access, and if you ask nicely, he might even recruit those patients for you. So he can help you in that way. He does, it's as time allows, and certainly if you then get your big grant that you need regular, somebody to enroll 500 people, you need to build that into your grant budget, but Stuart can help you for the preliminary stuff. Kathy Link. Kathy, can you stand up so everybody can see you? So Kathy is an outstanding regulatory coordinator, and every time I count the number of studies that she's currently providing regulatory support for, I'm just boggled by the number that she manages to juggle and keep on top of. But if you are, again, particularly a laboratory investigator and have relatively little experience with the IRB, reach out to those two because they can help you get the IRB work done and make sure you're keeping appropriate regulatory documentation. And they'll even do most of it for you, just if you ask. So that's a huge help. I'd like to highlight a couple examples of people who we've worked with and assisted who have really been quite successful while they've been here at Duke. And again, I think particularly for the young folks out there, there's lots of things at Duke that are set up to help you be successful. And many of them are free to you. And you should be taking advantage of every single one of them to help you launch your career. And for practical purposes, whatever we can provide from the clinical core, there's no charges to you. We don't do chargeback. And as I said, we can't enroll 500 people into your study, but we can help you to the extent that time allows. And we do not charge you for this service. So the first success story I'd like to highlight is Ginny Foulds. I don't know if she's still here, but she was here earlier. She first started at Duke as a postdoc and then a research scientist. She received mentoring from a number of people here at Duke across actually multiple cores, but including clinical core mentorship. And we facilitated her getting access to a historic HIV infant vaccine study. The number of important studies she's been able to use, or she's been able to complete using that sample repository has really helped her career to skyrocket. She was able to show that the infants that received a GP120 vaccine adjuvanted with MF59 responded better than adults and actually responded way better than anybody imagined they could have. And that couldn't have been done on the original study because the techniques were not available back then. But using these stored samples, I can't count the number of publications she's had from using those stored samples, but it's really launched her career. She also received a CFAR small grant, so she's used access to the developmental core, and she's now a successful associate professor with 3 R01s to her name, so she's doing quite well. I'd also like to mention Dr. Gerry Bloomfield, who's an associate professor of medicine, and he studies cardiovascular disease in HIV-infected individuals. He received a CFAR pilot award to study cardiac function among adolescents with HIV, and along with a Fogarty Fellow, Andrew McCrary. Dr. Bloomfield receives mentoring from Dr. Bartlett, as well as from other individuals, and regulatory support from the clinical core. And he has now recently received an R01. So again, people can continue to use our support, and that's okay, we like that. I also just want to mention the long-term non-progressor study, which was mentioned before. Stuart has enrolled individuals on that study for the last 5.5 years. And those individuals stay on study and come in for visits every 6 months. And so the fact that he's been able to build relationships with those individuals has really helped keep the study ongoing and keep those individuals on study. And so that's been critical in terms of the number of research projects and what people have been able to learn by studying those individual long-term non-progressors. So that's really the points I wanted to cover. I want to emphasize we are available. You can approach any of us today. Stuart's email is stuart.karcz@duke.edu. But feel free to get in touch with us anytime, even if you just want to run an idea by us, or if you want to say, like, is this something you could help with, or do you know who I can talk to? We are available, and we work closely with all the other cores. So if it's something that we say, well, that's not really us, that's really more the SBS Corps, we'll be happy to help you make the linkage with the SBS Corps. So that's my sales pitch. Get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks.
Any questions for Colleen or the Clinical Corps? Thank you.